Chief Meteorologist Rebecca Kopelman here, and going to walk through all of the winter mess that is coming this way, as we have been in some nice springy weather, and now we have winter just coming back into the picture. So we'll talk about this storm that is coming. I can answer any questions that you may have, and just kind of walk through how everything is going to go today and into tonight, with winter really making a comeback after we had such a stretch of warmth, record-breaking warmth, in fact, that happened in the last 4 days here. We had a string of days, 60s, even a 70 in there, and now we have the chance of seeing several inches of snow, and some impactful snow at that, in the area. So let's kind of walk through it here, and I'm going to make sure I can pop up your questions on this side so I can keep an eye on that. But anytime, feel free to pop in and ask, and I'll hopefully get a chance to answer it. But we do have winter weather advisories that have been posted. These came in pretty early this morning and overnight around 2 a.m. or so, and it was just an indication that we were starting to see some signs of some more snowfall, and some of the data suggesting we'd have heavier snow, as well as a bit of a southern jog to the system. Now, the models have been creeping a little further northwest again, but I'm kind of staying the course for the moment unless I see something that is to the contrary, because sometimes you can have these little jumps here and there. But it is going to be very important in terms of the snowfall amounts with this system, because it's going to have a zone of heavier snow, and then it tapers off to the north and south of it. But the confidence is still kind of in the middle. There's still quite a bit of data that is going in different directions, but there's been a southern shift in general to the storm track, and we're going to see a narrow band of heavy snow on the order of 4 to 6 inches. There's uncertainty on placement, and I'll say there's also uncertainty in the amounts, because there's some data that's suggesting some very large amounts of snow, and the question would be really if that is reality or not. I do think that there is some data that's a little more level in terms of the top totals, but there's a lot of data that is also going to kind of some extremes with some higher amounts that get toward a foot in some spots. But it's a question of if that is the reality of the situation, given we are going to be in a transition from some warmer weather into the colder weather, and we're likely going to have some lower snowfall rates, or some lower snowfall ratios, rather, more of that kind of slushier snow initially, at least. And so I have some question marks about that, but I do want to throw it out there because there's such uncertainty with this system, and there's been some really new trends that have been kind of coming in lately. But this is my snow map for right now that is showing the potential for 2 to 5 inches of snow across a big chunk of the area, and dusting to 2 inches may have to be adjusted a little bit to some higher amounts in the northwest, but I think the southeast is kind of holding pretty steady with the track of this storm. And then a narrow zone of heavy snow will be possible, where we could see some of these totals 6 inches or higher in this area, somewhere in this area. And that kind of puts Cedar Rapids in the crosshairs, where we could be kind of around the 2-inch mark, or we could be into some of the heavier snow. And so it's really a matter of exactly where this system tracks, and we're going to walk through why that is the case here. But in general, we're looking at accumulating snow across the area, and regardless of if you're in the heavier stuff or not, it's obviously going to make a difference, because there are going to be some more impacts with the heavier snow, especially heading into tomorrow morning. But it makes the roads slippery if it's a little bit, or if it's a lot of it. So definitely just want to be prepared for changes, and a lot of change as we are going into the day-to-day from where we've been, which was literally fires and heat the last 4 days, to now winter just truly coming back. And we have not seen snow in over 2 weeks. It hasn't been since the beginning of the month. So I think the 3rd was maybe our last snowfall. So it's been a solid 2 weeks since we've had snow falling and issues on the streets. This is a current look at the satellite and radar, and there's snow off to the west here in Nebraska, and then there's rain coming up from the south. It's not been holding together a whole lot. There's been some thunderstorms kind of eating away at some of that moisture as well. There's a severe weather risk in portions of Illinois and into Indiana, so just telling of kind of the energy that's coming with the system. And I think what's going to give us a good indication of how things are going to pan out is to see kind of what the snowfall totals are as they come out of Nebraska and come into Iowa, this batch of snow. The higher elevations will kind of support a bit of heavier snow, so we'll kind of have to see how things go there. We have had some cooler air though in place, but we're getting a little bump up as the system approaches, and we should get temperatures up into some 40s across most of the area here this afternoon, already at 43 in Washington. Some of us still hanging out below freezing up in the north. And so we will have that transition happen earlier in the north to snow as this precipitation kind of goes on. But currently, we do have the chance for the rain to come into the picture after about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and rain will fall through the day and will or through the afternoon hours, and we'll see a transition around 5 o'clock kind of near Highway 20, and then closer to Highway 30 around 6 o'clock that there could be a little bit of a wintry mix. Predictor's not really showing much of that, but wouldn't be surprised if maybe some sleet kind of gets in the mix, and then we see that change over to the snow, and we'll be dealing with some kind of that just a slushier snow initially, and then it should get a little lighter and fluffier on the backside as colder air gets pulled in. But we'll have that transition happening, and some of the question marks are based on that track. It could lead to us being in the rain a little longer or a mix a little longer and whatnot. But regardless, most of the snow is going to be falling through the night. As we go to, though, that kind of 5, 6 o'clock hour, and maybe you're still driving home from work or you have some plans this evening, just something to be aware of that we'll start to see some impacts on the streets. And we're already seeing just within this some of these darker blues and some indications of heavier snow falling and the potential for it to really overcome the ground that has warmed up so much. So we are going to certainly see some change here on the streets and some slick spots out there. A lot of that impact I think is going to happen though overnight, and snow will continue to fall through the night, and we will have it winding down into tomorrow morning. And I think around 5 o'clock in the morning, we should see a lot of it out of here. There could be a bit lingering to the east, and then the snow ends, and we are going to have then some still snow-covered roads and some slick streets out there for the evening or the morning drive rather on Friday. And so that could lead to some maybe schools making some changes to schedules just depending on how quickly the snow gets cleaned up. So that's something that we will have to monitor for tomorrow and just be prepared for some of those changes. And the other thing I wanted to mention here too is that the winds are going to be picking up a bit, and so we'll have some gusty winds that could be around 20, maybe 30 miles per hour. That could also lead to some lowered visibility along with the heavier snow as this is falling later this evening and into tonight. So this is one of our models, our in-house model known as the graph model. And then this model here is the HRRR, which is the high resolution rapid refresh model. My graphics are gonna look a little funny. I need to adjust this one so I can show you guys. I'll kind of have it in view so it doesn't look too funny, but I'm going to adjust it so I can show this fully what's happening today to see some of the differences that we're seeing in the models and the differences in numbers. Someone just asked about delays tomorrow. I just mentioned it that I wouldn't be surprised if it does happen. I won't be able to pinpoint like right here is going to be exactly where it is, but areas like toward Dubuque and in the eastern part where the snow stops later and maybe will still be falling in the morning around 5 or 6 a.m. I wouldn't be surprised if they just can't get out to the streets and get everything cleaned up in time for school. So I would just definitely check in and be prepared for that possibility, but it's not a given. So this is the high resolution rapid refresh model. It runs every hour. This is a run from a few hours ago. And so it's showing a bit more of that rain, and it lingers quite a bit longer with the rainfall, shows some heavy rain around this evening, and doesn't show that changeover into the colder air quite as quickly. But what it does do is show some very, very high snowfall rates, and it's showing some very intense snow, particularly in the north, and is spitting out some pretty high snowfall numbers, and shows up pretty similar on the timing for the end of the snow, but does show it starting a bit later and not really changing over to snow in Cedar Rapids till closer to maybe 11 p.m. So it's showing some lower totals for Cedar Rapids as a result of that, and spitting out some high numbers. This is this is my forecast right now, and so I may need to adjust some of this line a little bit further to the north, as I've kind of been fine tuning this forecast for where the heavy snow could fall. It could end up a bit further to the north here as well. But I do want to show our in-house model of the graph, which does tend to do a pretty good job with these snowfall events, and actually caught on to this southern trend yesterday. I think it may be still a little far south with some things, but this is showing 4 inches in Cedar Rapids, and some of these higher totals close to 7 in Monticello, 5 inches in Dubuque, and some of these 4 to 5 inches here, and then those lower amounts on the north and south side. Now, we can't take these numbers at face value because they are just, it's one model run, it's just one thing, but it is at least an indication showing kind of how I'm trending the way that I am, and something that's kind of on that line of thinking. And given that our temperatures today are also coming in just lower than we've been anticipating recently, I think that we're kind of on the track here. And that's also in line with kind of the National Weather Service, though they have some different numbers in their forecast. And I will say, this is a very tricky forecast. It is difficult to kind of hammer out the details with how many numbers are here and there. And I think there are a ton of different forecasts that are being shown by a bunch of different entities today. I've just seen them myself. So I would say just something to be aware of if you're going to be, if you're perusing and you're seeing, hey, there's a lot of different numbers out there. That's probably part of the equation, because it has been just an interesting forecast, and things have been changing quite rapidly. And this is the winter weather advisory, at least, which is showing that potential for the heavier snow to fall, and what the National Weather Service is thinking. I'm going to pop in and see if they've put any recent thoughts into about some of the latest trends. But what is interesting is they're also dealing with at least our southeastern counties are underneath the Quad Cities office, and they have a severe weather threat that kind of hugs part of their eastern area. So there haven't really been many updates just yet, but there's been some snowfall numbers that have been showing some higher amounts in southwest Iowa. And I'm just curious to see if we end up seeing some changes in the northeast with some of this data coming in. I'll see if I can pop up some of these models that have been showing some different numbers, but let's see. Have to find some stuff that works here, but totals. Oh, not that. Okay, well, let's see here. I'm going to just run through a couple of models and kind of show what the different things that are happening and what we're seeing. And if I can make this big enough, but you can kind of see how this is one model. This is the national, or it's an American model, but this one is showing a hole here, some of the things we're dealing with, but also showing some 7-inch totals, and then has some of these high totals just over the river of over a foot. And this is not something I normally point out a ton, because sometimes it's just like, oh, these are in La La Land, but unfortunately there's quite a few that are showing some of these high amounts. This one's a little further to the north and kind of puts Cedar Rapids closer to 1 or 2 inches of snow, and has more of that snow to the north. But so that is just showing the considerable uncertainty with this system, and the trend here to these higher totals is a little bit more recent with a lot of the models. There's been a few that have shown it, but now there's a lot more showing it. And so this one may be a little bit more reasonable, similar to our graph model showing some of these 6 to 8 inch totals here, and then a few spots of higher totals off to the east, but then still the lower amounts to the north and to the southeast here. And then let's see if our European model pops in with, I think we have the 6Z. So let's see what is going on here. But this one had been showing some pretty high totals and does show this band here, like kind of around Dubuque, that gets into those 6 to maybe 8 inch totals, and then some higher amounts off to the northeast into Wisconsin. So there's like a break that almost happens before this, and I do think there could be a little bit of a dry slot going on, but there's certainly some uncertainty in all of this still. And still some pretty big differences when we were so close to this event happening. So this is the GFSR American model. Let's see what this guy is popping in for us here. This one is a lot further north too and has this kind of widespread, bigger band of snow. So I do think that some of the higher totals will probably be a little bit more narrow than this. And this is a lower resolution model, but there have been a number that have been showing some of these high totals, and this is that high resolution rapid refresh model here that's also showing that should kind of zero in on some of those more smaller scale features and is showing some pretty widespread heavy totals. So it is quite interesting that this trend has been happening here with some of these bigger snowfall totals. So definitely some things we'll have to watch today and going to continue to assess as the day goes on, but we will have some updates here for you as we get into the day today. It looks like there is an update. They have gone to a winter storm warning. That's why those counties disappeared. So let's see, winter storm. And that's what I'm talking about. I think it's pretty much that's why that's happening is the fact that those higher totals are happening probably led to these winter storm warnings now being issued. So I'm going to get rid of some of these boxes here, but this is now what's going on. We may see an upgrade in some other spots too, that these now winter storm warnings have been posted. So this will be from, let's see if this is for Tama, Waterloo, and Black Hawk County, Tama County, Grundy, Butler, and I'm missing one. The Greene County, or no, Greene, City of Greene, but yeah. Grundy Center, Grundy County, I think was the one I was missing. But 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And now, yeah, the Weather Service highlighting 5 to 8 inches of snow. So I'm curious because they have had some lower snowfall amounts. That if they're going to bump things up considerably, and I apologize because I'm making sure that these are all updated here, these graphics. But yeah, I heard it here first. Winter storm warnings now posted for parts of eastern Iowa, and we may see some more upgrades because of that concern of some heavier snow falling and some of these higher totals that we're seeing. So I'm probably going to have to make some adjustments, but it's been interesting to see just the data here and how things end up panning out and how high we end up having to go with some of these totals. And so I think it's just a lot of uncertainty, unfortunately, but I do want people to be prepared for the fact that we're going to have snow. It's going to be falling. It is going to be heavy in spots, and we are going to also have some snow that we wake up to tomorrow morning that could cause delays. And if you're out late tonight or going to be just up early tomorrow, something to be aware of that is going to be potentially impactful for you. So we have winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings now in the area, and we're going to kind of fine tune the details of this forecast. You can keep checking in with us. You have our app, we'll have the details there as well. And we will have updates from our road warrior as we head into this evening. And I'm going to see if the other other weather service offices end up following suit and adding in this winter storm warning here, because I wouldn't be surprised if we see a bit of those heavier totals now coming into the picture that we may need to be concerned with. So I hope everybody stays safe and stays warm after we've had all of our just wackadoodle weather recently, and it was so warm, and now we are seeing this big changeover to snow. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this and keep you updated, and we will have updates at noon here. If you tune in on CBS2 on your TV, and also we'll have updates on our Facebook and Twitter pages, as well as later on tonight on CBS and Fox, and we will have all of our Weather First team in doing some updates for you as we go through the day today. So I hope everybody has a good day and is prepared for the winter to make a comeback here.